Hello, I'm Dr. Ann Pendo, the Senior Medical Director for Experience of Caring at Intermountain Healthcare, and I am excited today to speak with Dr. Cara Camiolo Reddy, who is the Interim Associate Chief Medical Officer for Clinical Shared Services and the Senior Medical Director for Rehabilitation and Pain Management Services. Thanks so much for being here today.
Thanks, Ann.
So talk with us a little bit. We're going to talk about what you've learned through this time of COVID. Tell us a little bit about what your job was like before COVID and how it's changed since the pandemic landed in Salt Lake.
So before COVID, my job looked a lot different. I was the Senior Medical Director for Rehabilitation Services and Pain Management Services. And as a rehab doc, that was my home base. That was my happy place, and felt very comfortable in that role. I got a call from my boss as the pandemic was really starting to get going and as the organization was thinking about what we needed to do to prepare. And he asked me if I'd be willing to take on a different role. And so I stepped into this interim role as Associate Chief Medical Officer for the Clinical Shared Services. And that really kind of took me out of that place where I was most familiar and allowed me to work more broadly in the organization as we prepared for COVID and managed, the work that we had to do on a day-to-day basis. And part of that was leading the organization efforts and the team that was put together for our physician workforce assessment to say, how do we best use our physician workforce to meet the needs and the demands that we may see in our community and in our hospitals as it relates to the pandemic. And so that was new work for me.
Yeah, so it sounds like there was some problem solving, some strategy, some work around change management as physicians are thinking, I'm going to be working in another location. Were there skills that you relied on from your other role as you transitioned to this broader responsibility?
Yeah, that's a great question. And as I stepped into this new role, I had a brief conversation with one of my mentors just to tell her that, hey, I'm taking on this new job at a really interesting time. And, her response back was quick, but I know her so well. I knew all the meaning behind it, which was just lean in, do what you usually do. And that was such a great reminder for me because as I stepped into this kind of, bold new world and work that was really unfamiliar to me and a lot of the folks on our team working on it, it reminded me to approach it the same way I would have done anything before that. And bring my true self to it, dive in, get the data, really understand it, and then just get out and connect with the folks that I needed to. It really allowed me to connect with physicians throughout the organization that I hadn't previously. And so it was wonderful to make those new relationships and have conversations about how we can best support the patients in our communities. And so every once in a while, you just had to sit back and say, okay, I can do this. We can do this as a team, and remind yourself of, what got you to that point in the first place.
Yeah. Knowing you, and we've had a chance to talk before like this, your recognition that connection's important and the focus on what matters for our patients and bringing people together around that common sense of purpose. We're lucky to have you. So tell us how you keep going. How do you keep going on those hard days? And also, how do you take care of yourself?
So, yeah, that's really important. This has been busy time.
Yes.
And, you have to remember those things that allow you to keep going. And there's two specifically for me. The first off is music. And so I am a rehab physician, and as such, I am an advocate both professionally and personally around music therapy. And so for me, what allows me to recharge and keep going is, going home and playing the piano for a bit or taking out my guitar and trying something new. And my team will tell you that my favorite icebreaker question when we bring our team together for the first time is, if you are alone in your car, what are you singing to? And so those are the moments that you have to remember that you need that time for yourself. And for me, a lot of that is through music and really just that connection is very healing. And so on the tough days, you may find me, with my headphones in and, maybe, moving around a little bit. And that is just because that is just so healing for me.
I love that.
And very connecting. Back to the, question of, how do you keep going? Again, it gets back to what brought you here? What got you into this? And a lot of us got into healthcare for a very particular reason. And I feel blessed to be able to work with my colleagues in rehab services. And, when I have to remember some days the why, that's where I go. And on the rehab unit, we have a tradition that when people are discharged from the hospital after their long rehab stay and long hospitalization, they pick a song that is played as they walk out of the hospital. And everyone gets to pick their own song, and the staff line the hallway, and everybody claps and dances and, has a wonderfully warm send-off. And even though I'm not there every day taking care of patients any longer, that is my connection. That's my connect to purpose. That's my why. And that's what keeps me going.
I love that. So what's the song that you sing in the car when you're by yourself?
Well, I am from New Jersey, so, it's disproportionately a lot of Bon Jovi and Bruce Springsteen, but, it depends on the day.
I love that. So what have you learned about yourself as a person and yourself as a leader?
I think we can do hard things. We can come together with our teams and really learn and adapt. These last 2 months have just been constant adaptation. The work we were doing in March was very different than the work we were doing in April, which is very different than the work we're doing now. And that's because our understanding of the pandemic has changed. What we've done as a state has changed how we've had to respond in a positive way. And so learning and iterating at each step of the way has become increasingly important. And also understanding that at times, I don't know and is okay. That answer is okay. And acknowledging imperfect information. I think that was something that has struck me over the last couple of months. It's okay to say, we don't know. And let's do the best we can with the data we have right now.
Yeah.
And learn how we adapt over time.
I think we try so hard to get everything right and have the answers. And this is really, this time, the rapid change and so much uncertainty is really pushing us to new places. So as we wrap up our time together, as you're reflecting on, your new leadership roles, if you were going to share 2 or 3 tips for the audience, what would be the things that you would want them to know about leading in times of significant change?
I think most importantly is communication. When there is so much change going on around you, the more you can connect with your teams and communicate, the better. And sometimes it may seem like, wow, I think I just talked to them. Go back.
Yes.
It's okay. Keep going. Be visible. And that has been hard recently. But the visibility in any way that you can get it is really important. And then ultimately just show up with yourself. And if that means that, sometimes we're bringing humor and a little sarcasm and a little snarkiness, and keep it real, because that's how folks know that you're there with them.
I love that. I love that. Thank you so much for being with us today. It was just delightful to see you in person and have some time to catch up. Thank you.
Thanks, Ann.
Thanks, everyone, for joining today. Thank you, Dr. Kara Camiola, for joining us as well. Bye-bye.